Hello, and welcome to our third episode of An Agnostic Moment. The New Testament of the Bible is an embarrassment. Let's be real here. Specifically, the four historical books about Jesus in the Bible, the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are really embarrassing. Not for me, of course, but they would have been profoundly embarrassing, humiliating even for the disciples of Jesus. You know who the 12 disciples were: Peter, James, John, Matthew, Jude.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
Hey Jude. And the rest who actually started the Christian church. They spent 3 years traveling around with Jesus, hanging out as he preached, healed, and eventually died, and according to these same books, rose from the dead. The four Gospels form a biography of what Jesus did, and the disciples are on practically every page. The picture that is painted is not very flattering. Jesus was constantly on them. He scolded them about their lack of spiritual understanding, their petty posturing among themselves, and time after time about their wimpy little faith. Several times he openly rebuked them for their outrageous behavior. And that's not the worst of it. When Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane just before his horrible ordeal, they kept falling asleep. And when soldiers came to arrest Jesus, they ran like rabbits. Peter openly denied even knowing Jesus 3 times just to save his own skin, in spite of the fact that he had earlier bragged that he would be willing to die for Jesus. Easter Sunday, several female followers visited the tomb. Where were the men? We're told plainly that they were holed up in a private room, absolutely terrified of the men that had Jesus crucified. Now here's the really curious thing. Those four Gospels were the most important documents of the early church. All evidence dates them very early, well within the lifetime of the original witnesses, and they were written by people who were in the know. 2 of them were actually written by disciples, Matthew and John. Luke was a dedicated historian and a traveling companion of St. Paul, and Mark was a student of the disciple Peter. Do you see something odd here? Let me give you an analogy. What if in 1776, when the Continental Congress wrote the Declaration of Independence, they wrote another document as an addendum? Let's call it a biography page of all the signers. What if that biography page listed all the faults, failings, and foibles of the renowned signers of that document? Would the proud founders of the United States have allowed that? I don't think so. It runs contrary to human nature. So why in the name of human pride would the disciples, the powerful leaders of the early church, have written so candidly about their weaknesses, the stern rebukes of their Rabbi Jesus, and their cowardice in his final hours? I believe that there's only one reasonable explanation: that transmitting to all who would listen the accurate and truthful account of the life and teachings of their Master Jesus was of supreme importance to them, infinitely more important than their own petty pride. And if they told the absolute truth about their weaknesses, how does that speak to the accuracy of their witness about the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus? And that's an agnostic moment.